can't be obnoxious and say, I'm looking for clients. You have to build some trust and some relationships with people. And then eventually, hopefully oh, wait, John knows somebody, I can get you in touch with him. And
Hi, John. Thank you so much for the interview with CPA Career Path. I met John at AI CPA Engage, and I would love to know more about your CPA career path as being a CPA, PFS, and CFP. So first and foremost, can you introduce a little bit about yourself?
Well, I've got a variety of experiences, but I graduated from Tulane University in New Orleans and then went to work for a CPA firm here in New Orleans. Did a lot, was an audit, moved around, and then we moved to New York, and then we moved to Florida, and we moved back to New Jersey. And along the way, I was working for first a paper company and then a mining company. And then one day when I was working for the mining company, they said it would be a good idea for me to move to Peru. And so because I originally was born in Mexico, so I speak Spanish. I'm fluent in Spanish. So we went down there, took a look, and unfortunately we had bodyguards with us the whole time. Peru in the early 90s was a little scary. And what did it was the president of the company said along the way, said, if you come down to Peru, we're going to have to give you a full physical so that just in case we ever get some body parts in the mail, we know it's you.
That sounds scary.
And so I came back to the U.S. and I said, you know what, it's time to start my own business. And that's when I started. And so I had a practice for 30 years with dealing with high net worth doctors, private equity clients, just different things like that. So and after 30 years during the COVID experience that we went through, I decided it was time to get out of the tax business. And so that was a couple years ago.
So now you're not doing tax business anymore. So what are you focusing on?
I mean, I do a lot of research work, but I'm certainly not preparing clients' returns and stuff. It was time to move on.
So which state are you staying now? Because you said you move around a lot.
Yeah. After 20 years in New Jersey, the winters finally wore me down, and so we decided to move back. And my wife is from the New Orleans area, so we are in New Orleans. Although it's 100 degrees today, so it's not that pleasant, but it beats being in February in New Jersey, as I like to say.
Oh, wow. California is just 79 right now, so it's pretty good. Not too hot, not too cold. Yeah, have you ever been in California?
Yes, I've been to LA quite a few times.
At the very beginning, when you start the accounting major or you start thinking that you want to be a CPA, what inspired you to pursue this career path?
Well, I was in college, and my first accounting class, I'll never forget it. I tried to go to study allowance for doubtful accounts the night before the test. And I realized pretty quickly that it was cram-proof. You couldn't just do it the night before. So I woke up, and I got a D on that test, and I was like, uh-oh. And I'd never had that happen to me before. So it kind of woke me up, and then I started investigating, found out that there was the Big 8 at the time, that there was job opportunities and that you can make a career out of it, get a license. I got pretty excited about it. At the time, Tulane they had a management degree, and they weren't encouraging the CPA per se. It was just, they had some courses. So I ended up having to go, Loyola University is next to Tulane, and so I took courses there enough so that I could sit for the CPA exam. But I didn't get credit from the Tulane side because they believed that should have been general management, not accounting. So I got both, and then got a job, and then went and then started working in the audit department. When I was doing some audit work, one of the clients that I was had to interview, the management interview that you always have to do. I'm talking to him and asking, about internal controls and things like this, and he basically said, "That's really nice, but how can you save me money on taxes?" And I said, "Well, we have a separate tax department," and he didn't think that was a good idea. He didn't like my response, so he basically said, And so then I walked out of there, and I said, "Well, I guess I need to know more about this." And I've always had an interest in investments, so it was interesting to know that as I progressed along, I then found out that the CFP was available. Now, at the time, it was a designation by the College for Financial Planning, and you took 6 different courses, and once you passed each course, it wasn't a comprehensive exam like it is now. It was a serial exam at the time. And so that was 1987. And so I had then took all the courses, and I was planning on doing some of this work because, back then in those days, it was mainly tax and audit in a CPA firm. And so I was hoping to do more of that, but then I ended up getting jobs with in industry and had good opportunities there. So I had to keep, since I was paying for the CFP, I kept studying it and passing it, and then eventually I became a CFP in 1987. And then subsequent to that, then the college transferred the designation over to the CFP board, which is where it is today. And they developed a comprehensive exam.
So get back to college time, when you said you think that accounting is the best for you. And so you started audit. What made you decide that you want to start with audit first, not in tax or not in anything else?
Primarily, I got a job in audit. And I think at the time, to get your license as a CPA, even though you were working in the tax department, I didn't think that down the road I could do maybe accounting work or the advising work in the accounting area that I could if I was just in the tax department. So it worked out. The audit was good, and it was a small enough firm where we did audits. But then at the time, it was we had monthly work is what we called it, and we had our own clients where we were sort of the controller, CFO. So the clients would rely on us to give them good financial statements and meet with them, and so it was good. I actually had to keep sets of books for clients, and then one day I was all in the we got a big hotel client, and they assigned it to me, and from then on I never knew what my day was going to be, because there's 4 different hotels, there's different levels of experience. I could be in one hotel, go over to the other one. It was always fun. So, I always knew which ones the general manager that I wanted to meet with at the end of the day versus the ones in the morning, because certain ones at the end of the day would invite me for a cocktail while we're finishing up our meetings, where some were very, no, we're going to start at the morning and all this. So, I always scheduled it around it. But that was a very incredible experience to be dealing with it. And so I was like the controller for 4 different hotels, and that was a great experience for me. And then I wanted to go into we called it MAS at the time, Management Advisory Services. I think they call it CAS now, CAS. This was coming in a new era. It was Management Advisory Services. I remember getting the first PC in the office. It was it was huge, it was a compact computer with a little screen. And, and what I did is they let me do the consulting side. And we did a lot of PC installations because we were finding general ledgers and helping the clients run payrolls and things like that. So it was the beginning of the IT consulting area. So when I got involved with it, and then slowly, I always had the interest in the personal financial planning side of it. So that was I did both. I was trying to learn the PFP stuff, the CFP stuff at the time.
Yeah, that's interesting. I guess that's the beauty of doing audit. So you can move from audit to controller, and then you can have different experience instead of starting as a tax. Focusing on tax at the very beginning, you would not have that experience of communicating with different people on different levels of the company, like you mentioned about being controller for the big hotel clients.
It is, and if I was like, my son went to work for a CPA firm, and he had a choice, and I was suggesting that I thought audit would be a better start. Also, you do interact with clients, but you actually go to their offices and see how it operates and see how, taking inventories. That's always an experience for the new people who join the firm.
Yes, I remember when I started, they gave me the inventory count. I was in audit at the beginning when I moved to public. They sent me to do inventory count at 5 a.m.
Oh yeah. No, they don't give it to the older people. They give it to the new people. Yeah. No, some of the best stories of public accounting were taking inventories. It was always fun.
And so, at which point that you changed from being an auditor, from being a controller, to focus on tax?
Well, I then, like I said, I went to work. In 86, I went to work for a mining company, and then about all the way, and then the paper company, and then about 92, right after my son was born, is when they wanted me to move to Peru. So that's when I started. Now I really didn't have I did, I guess, because I was the intern when I arrived at the mining company. They gave me the job of international tax manager. And I was like, I don't know anything about international taxes. And they said, well, you'll figure it out. And that was pretty stressful trying to deal with it, because we had operations in Mexico, Peru, Australia, and moving, how you structure the different entities can make a difference on the tax. And so, we have Bermuda companies. So it was pretty interesting to deal with that. So I learned it that way. And then when I then decided to go off on my own, the one thing clients can recognize at the time is a tax return. You can tell them all about financial planning. You can tell them all about all these other things. But they do understand a tax return. They do understand that it has to be filed. So that's really how I started in the tax area there. And it's kind of interesting how I ended up in this area. It's a great story because when I lived in Mexico, the American community is pretty tight-knit. You might not know the people, but you would certainly know the names. And so one of the big activities for the Americans was Little League Baseball. And so, we spent a lot of weekends there, and I had some great friends that I made playing baseball in Mexico City. And one day we were all up in the New Jersey area many years later, and we're talking, and one guy was a doctor, and another guy was a private equity. And he played. One guy played third base, one guy pitched. I was the second baseman, and this was how it all came together. And then one of the doctors was getting ready to start his practice, and he said, why don't you do my stuff? And I said, well, because I'm working in New York. I'm commuting to New York every day. And he goes, we'll figure it out. So slowly, but and so then I would be looking at it on the train, and so then that built up. I helped him build up his practice, and then he introduced me to a lot of doctors. And then I ran into the other guy, and he had been delinquent for filing his tax returns, so we had to get caught up pretty fast. And once we got caught off, he started introducing me to all his colleagues. So basically, I didn't do any marketing. 80% of what I did came from playing baseball with two guys in Mexico City.
They become your best friends now?
One, one is has always been one of my great friends, and and the other one we communicate, yes, but it was just that's how it came about, and so I never really had to go out and do a lot of marketing or anything like that. So I'm very fortunate, and I also had really, really top-notch clients. It's awesome.
Yeah, you save a lot of money, marketing, advertising, and put that money having fun playing basketball or baseball. That's a very smart way. So I guess now we should change the way, just try to play sport, and so we can have clients from there. Yeah.
I think the point is, you have a relationship with somebody. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be sports, but that was one of the activities that in Mexico was something the Americans did. So it was, but you could have had any other different activity, dance, I don't know, whatever, but something that you have a common interest with. So it was interesting, and so that's where when you got people who might go out and get involved in the community is a potential source of clients. I think that says a lot. You build relationships, and you can't be obnoxious and say I'm looking for clients. You have to build some trust and some relationships with people, and then eventually hopefully wait, John knows somebody, I can get you in touch with him. And so it just takes a lot of time. It doesn't happen overnight.
That's what I just want to dig a little bit deeper about. You mentioned about build relationship from playing sport, and then two guys in Mexico, and then they the one who just bring you clients. How have you built the relationship over time for these two people?
Well, it's also all their friends and their colleagues. So once, in fact, one of the guys we went up to a friend's golf tournament up in Poconos in Pennsylvania. So we were together for 3 days playing golf, and so we've and he's and we have different types of. We've known each other since we were 6 years old, so it's a little. It's not like you just met them or anything like that. But then once once I was working with the clients or their colleagues, and they saw that I first of all that I came recommended, and that they both were very respected members of their community, and that I came recommended. That was big, and then. And then you deliver good quality, and you don't take on clients that you don't want. You gotta be, selective on what you want. Not totally. Sometimes when you're hungry, you certainly want. But at times you have to say, well, no, I can't do this, or I don't want to do this, or whatever.
I'm very interested in your story when you mentioned that you stay in Peru for a period of time. How long did you stay in that country?
I was just there mainly for just weeks at a time. They wanted me to move there, so I would have packed up everything and moved down there with my wife. She was pregnant at the time, so we would have picked up, and and it was really hard because there was a lot of money that was put in front of me, and to move down there, and and you had all the benefits of the foreigner and income exclusions and things like that. So I couldn't believe my mouth was saying no, and my brain's going, wait, are you sure?
But the timing was tough for you because your wife was pregnant at that time, so it was tough for her to.
Okay. It would have been okay. I mean, they picked out an apartment on the top penthouse overlooking the Pacific Ocean. I mean, it was.
Oh, that's pretty.
It was, but you walked out of there and you had bodyguards with you. And so that was a little scary also to get used to that. And some people, and when actually I was third generation Mexican, because my grandfather went there in 1917, and so he ended up he worked for the same company. He was the head of the Mexican operation. So I think that's what they were expecting at the time. So it just to turn something like that down took a lot of what are you doing? But it worked out. I mean, it did. I had great clients, and we've moved around, and I'm not sure what the life would have been in Peru, but I wouldn't be talking to you right now.
No. But you moved like all different states, to New York, to Florida, to New Jersey. How did you adapt to different life in different states like that, and especially how your family supported you during that time?
Yeah, well, I mean, we were always, my wife and I, we can make friends anywhere. That wasn't the issue. The thing is that when we moved from New Jersey to Florida, or from New York to Florida, that's when I started my practice. So that was difficult because we went down there. It was her job that we transferred down there. She had a nice job, so we moved down there. And back then, early 90s, email didn't exist. So trying to start a business without technology, was pretty hard. I mean, I still had the base clients, the two, that I was working with, but it was hard to get new clients in New Jersey, for example, from Florida. So that was definitely a challenge. Nowadays, does it really matter? I mean, you're in California, I'm in New Orleans. I mean, we could be, this whole technology it really doesn't matter where you are. But at the time, it was very important. So I would have to, I'd have to come up to New Jersey periodically and meet with people, see if they wanted. It wasn't as easy as I would have hoped, but eventually we then moved back to New Jersey, and then started getting more clients at the time, and doing more work.
Yeah, you mentioned about technologies, and ChatGPT just super popular recently, and I'm using it. It's so good. I think it's super helpful. How do you think the technology will affect the accounting professional? And also, how can accountants or CPAs use technology to support their jobs or their careers?
Well, I think the biggest, if I have to give you some war stories, and so this is, just on tax, the tax software is huge. You couldn't do it. My father-in-law does his tax return by hand, and I look at him like, there's no way I would even begin to think of doing that. You have to understand the results, but you don't have to know how to go through that calculation. And anybody who tries to do it by hand makes mistakes. So obviously having that kind of software has been really good. And back in the old days, should we say, basically what they would do is they would fill out these, they didn't have a computer, but they would send it to a data processing center. So they would fill out the sheets, send it in a bus, and then they would key it in and send back the tax returns. This was, and then I remember our firm got a big IBM System 34 computer, and then we started doing our own taxes in-house. So that was big, and then as more and more, I've seen it. How many? It's really, to do the desktop version doesn't make sense anymore. You really have to be cloud-based, because then you don't have the backup issues and things like that. So that's just on the processing. That's changing quite a bit. It changes all the time. I don't know about you. When I was walking through that vendor exhibit hall at Engage, I couldn't even understand what half those applications were. I'd be looking at it, it's like, well, what does this do? And so it's obviously changing fast. Just report writers. I talked to one guy for the uses the QuickBooks Online, and that would look really nice. But if you're using the desktop version, that wouldn't do anything. But yeah, it was just there's some new technology there that I couldn't even. And I've been quite tech savvy over the years, but I don't know what some of these things were doing. Now, maybe if I was more in tune in what audit or tax, or if that was becoming more important to me. But to see that kind of technology changing, and that was just in 1 year. In a lot of sessions, it was ChatGPT, and so I can imagine Engage next year is going to be something incredible with all the ChatGPT. They brought out some good points, that you don't want to be using, you got to be careful about using your client's data, because once you use it in a ChatGPT, it becomes part of the public, the whole database. So, companies do have to work through this right now, but it's going to go fast. I saw Tulane had a book festival last spring, and they had Bill Gates was one of the speakers, and his story was that he gets invited to some of their development meetings, and he arrived one time and they said, look at this is our artificial intelligence stuff. He said it was last fall, and he looked at it and kind of said, yeah, that's nice, I can see that, but come back to me when you can write a term paper. And so he left, and he figured it'd be years before that happened. And in 6 months, they called him back and said, nah, come back and see this. And he said it was just completely amazing how fast it went in 6 months, and it's just coming. So people need to get used to it. And, much to the chagrin of Google, people aren't going to be saying, let's Google it. Let's try ChatGPT on this. And it was I tried it the other day with I play bridge. That's one of my little side gigs now. But my partner and I were having a discussion of how to approach a particular hand. And I said, well, let me try ChatGPT, see what they come up. And I typed in, how do you respond to a one-note trumpet bit? And it was like, it took a couple minutes, and then it came back and gave us a nice analysis of why we should do this. And so I was like, okay, I can get it. So ChatGPT. So you won't be saying, let's Google it, you'll be ChatGPT it.
Yes, exactly. I was very impressed when I just use it for just like write a tenant notice, because I'm managing rental property, and it was like, I don't want to spend to write the full page of the tenant notice anymore. I just write the tenant notice with this content. They came back very nice format, very nice template. It was like, I just copy and paste it and edit a little bit. It's good to go.
Yeah, exactly.
It's pretty impressive. I couldn't believe that it could be that good.
I did because I did the Medicare presentation at Engage. I said, well, let me just see if they can give me a PowerPoint presentation on Medicare from the perspective of financial advisors. Nah, it didn't. It wasn't. It didn't quite. It's not up to date with the Medicare part.
Oh yeah. One thing when I use ChatGPT, they do have a small message saying that the data is 2021 and before only. It's not up to date. So yeah.
Unless you use the Bing on, I think Microsoft's Bing has the current version.